Hello, everybody. My name is Patrick Chase, one of the co-founders of Empire Space, New York's gateway to the solar system. We want to welcome you tonight to the second of our Rocketside Chat series, where we meet interesting people doing interesting things in space around New York. Tonight's guest is Dan Schneiderman. He is the Eclipse Partnership Coordinator at the Rochester Museum and Science Center, where he does all things solar eclipse. For those of you who don't know, parts of New York will be in the path of totality for the 2024 solar eclipse, and Dan is knee-deep in all of that work out here in the Finger Lakes region, among other many interesting things that he has done. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Dan. Hello, Dan.
Hey there, thanks for having me.
Of course, thank you for joining me and for all the interesting conversations we've had over the last year and a half between Empire Space and some of the work you've been doing at RMSC. So before we get into that, just I guess tell the folks a little bit about you, your background, how you got into STEM and space.
So I've always been a huge space fan. I myself grew up at the RMSC, going to the Strasbourg Planetarium. I was very lucky that I grew up in Henrietta, just outside of Rochester, on the edge of Rush. And my grandparents, who lived 5 minutes away, had this great field. And my grandfather was involved within the space industry for a time being. And I just kind of always grew up going outside, looking at the stars. Very clearly in my memory, one night being able to see like 5 planets at once and the ISS pass by all within, an hour or so, and, staying up, watching meteor showers, the whole shebang.
Nice. No, I know also being a Rochesterian, some of the places up Braddock's Bay has some great, I saw the aurora up there one night down the Finger Lakes too. My family had a cottage on Canisius Lake where you can get some really good viewing. So tell us about, I know you were really big into the maker world and maker fair before you wound up at RMSC. So just tell us a little bit about that before we start talking about Eclipse stuff.
Yeah, so I've kind of ended up in the maker world just through, I've been a STEM event organizer heavily within the tech industry. A couple years before that, I did a lot for robotics, and then I ended up co-chairing Maker Faire Rochester from 2014 through now. Basically, anyone who makes literally anything is considered a maker. So it could be Arduino electronics, could be science experiments, it could be art, it could be a mixture of all those things. I've been doing that for years, which kind of led to my position here at the RMSC. As about a year into the Maker Faire, I'd started working with the RMSC and started doing more hands-on activities there, developed a lot of my own to help promote the Maker Faire, and that kind of led down a rabbit hole of, being at all the After Darks, helping out at other events, helping out on committees, just random partnerships. And after the Maker Faire in 2019, they're like, hey, we have you in mind for this position. It may be a little bit, but after seeing that event, which I think we had 7,000 attendees over 2 days, including over 2,000 a day dedicated to 2,000 third to eighth graders, that was a ton of fun. But
that's absolutely fantastic.
Just kind of ended up in this whole STEM events world and bringing it to unusual places.
No, that's fantastic. So now I guess so the RMSC approached you about this Eclipse position. So I guess just inform us about how that position came about, what its focus is. I've personally been incredibly impressed with how kind of together and how well planned out the RMSC Eclipse project seems to be. And I've also heard that from other quarters of the state. So I guess just tell us how that got off the ground, what it was like in the early going, and then where you're at now.
So the RMSC has been talking about the April 8th, 2024 Total Solar Eclipse for quite some time now. The earliest I've been able to trace back has been Steve Fentress, the director of the planetarium, actually talking about it way back in 2012 to a lot of his camps, and saying, hey, this will be coming in a decade. And then, fast forward to 2017, everyone was super excited about the what was partially here in Rochester, but total in the US and other parts of the US. Starting to pick up a little bit of that steam. In, I want to say 2018, 2019, we had our new president, Hillary Olson, come into the museum, and she had this kind of position already planned out. She met up with Deb Ross, who was already starting to think about the eclipse, due to her experience in 2017 and knowing that it's going to come to Rochester. So all these forces kind of came together. They started to form the stakeholder group that first started meeting in 2019. I wasn't at the first meeting, but the second. And then knowing that meeting was coming up, I ended up reading like 3 or 4 eclipse related books in a short amount of time and just said, hey, here's what I would do. Here's the different thoughts. We have so many people. We have to get excited. They came out to the Maker Faire, which they had already been attending. And it just kind of went down the rabbit hole of, hey, we're going to have an Eclipse Partnership Coordinator position. It's still only part-time, but hopefully not for too much longer. Hopefully soon it should be full. Of just someone to help coordinate the efforts. Hillary had been doing a lot of the work herself and just needed someone else to tackle it. So I just kind of ended up with a position, and I started March 2021. And it was off to the races between, hey, we're at the almost at the 3-year mark, have to get ready for that. We had the June 10th, 2021 partial solar eclipse, which we got 70% here in Rochester. One of the best places to view the partial back in 2021, right over Lake Ontario, which was gorgeous. However, at 5:30 in the morning, which was a bit rough. Nothing says setting up an event at 4 a.m. in the dark. Thankfully, 2024 is going to be much later in the day. But
yeah, 3:30 in the afternoon is a much better time.
But yeah, it's just kind of been this crazy tackling on all these new different projects. We have some fun things coming down the line, but it's been getting that word out, getting people excited, trying to build up this stakeholder group, mostly so that we can hit 2023 and then 2024 running.
So I guess I'm curious, how did you kind of troubleshoot what that stakeholder group, how did you form that? Because I've seen it, having participated in some of the sessions, like once it's put together. But I mean, theoretically, the stakeholder group could be everybody. And the span of people that you need to talk to in terms of public infrastructure and public safety and government and education. So kind of that process for how did you segment that out into who were the priority contacts first, and how did you frame all that?
Admittedly, at first I had some heavy anxiety where, as you said, literally everyone could be part of it. And I know you've heard me say this again and again, literally everyone under the sun is a stakeholder for the eclipse. The main priorities were transportation, which they were already on board, very excited. They have been following since right after 2017. So Tennessee Transportation Council, yes, we have some traffic issues to deal with. We have Visit Rochester and Deb Ross, who've been talking within the tourism industry and the Visitor Industry Council, getting them all prepared. And then it's just been trying to get everyone else on board, from education to health. We've been talking to a lot of emergency managers recently over the last 2 months, which I've never dealt with, tapping into a lot of community organizers. Once we started to spread the word, honestly, people said, hey, we would love to be involved. It's a very easy project to pitch, saying, hey, we need your help. How can you help? That type of thing.
That's fantastic. And to me, there's kind of this dichotomy. You have some people who are hyper engaged and hyper interested. They've known it's coming. And how do you kind of corral that 3 years out? And then on the flip side of that, you have some people who are like, oh, that sounds cool, but it's in April of 2024. Like, how am I going to get excited about this now? So you have that huge range of people and potential interests of kind of how do you navigate that?
It's a lot of knowing what the issues will be, or, thankfully we're not reinventing the wheel. 2017 happened, and so there are so many lessons we can learn from 2017. And thankfully there's been white papers and videos and a lot of documentation, and there's a whole national committee that we help participate on. But it's just kind of knowing those issues and say, when people say, hey, why should we start thinking about this now? We're like, well, we could be seeing several 100,000 people added to the area. Well, because it's at this time, we got to think about, hey, do we want school to take place at this time, or do we want all kids out of school since it's at 3:20 p.m. here in Rochester for totality? So you start going down these issues, and then they're like, oh, I had never thought of that. And then you can start seeing their gears usually tick. The other one is just kind of reaching out and thinking out, okay, here are the demographics. How many different ways can we approach the eclipse? Because, you can say, hey, from the tourist point of view, and that can, break off into museums, that could break off to bars and restaurants, that could break off into farms. You have the education route, you can go down the healthcare route. Business, some businesses are thinking about, hey, do we want to close the office for a little bit? You can start going okay, what are the individuals like? Do you want to have people at festivals? Do we want people in nature? Kind of mixture of both, hotels, lodging, communication, making sure that it's accessible and safe for everyone. So, one of my favorite conversations came from talking to the Golisano Autism Center and saying, hey, we need a sensory safe location. Could you please help? Can you take the lead here? We would totally defer to you. We want to make sure that everyone has the chance to experience it in a pleasant and exciting way. So it's just kind of breaking down every demographic.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned demographics. You have to think like Rochester has a huge immigrant community, like making sure that people who don't speak English are aware of this. Of course, information will flow the easiest ways, and people who usually get information first will get it. But you would hope that no one in the region is surprised that day at 3:30. When the sun. You would hope that everyone knows that this is coming. So I guess what does a perfect eclipse day look like to you? So we're in April of 2024. We get to the day of the eclipse. Like, what does a really solid run, look like to you at this point?
At this point, a solid run would be, 3 days leading in. I know we're planning festivities here at the RMSC. So we'll be 3 days into that. Probably already a little bit tired, but still very excited for that day. More festivities going on, hopefully members of NASA in attendance, really cool science communicators speaking, local people speaking. We'll do our viewing festival party at the museum, but the best possible day would be, we'll have people at the public market, we'll have people out on farms, we'll be having people at home, we'll have people in parks. You'll have hopefully no school that day. We're working on getting that Monday canceled for school. We have everyone excited. We have everyone equipped. So, not everyone needs a pair of eclipse glasses, but every family should have one. So, we're looking at ordering 500,000 of them now so that we're then prepared by then to have them all distributed. Fingers crossed we have, that 375 to 500,000 additional people, every hotel room booked, having activities right after the eclipse so that people are busy that 15 minutes afterwards so we don't end up with as many traffic jams. We have venues available in multiple languages, just having as many possible people outside all experience this at once, and then totality.
And then totality. And that's something I've never personally experienced. I know a lot of other people haven't personally experienced. And I guess from my perspective, from the Empire Space perspective, we're building this once in a generation network of not only science and STEM communicators and organizations, but regular people as well. And thinking about what happens next with it. I know that there won't be other eclipses in New York anytime soon. I know there will be other organizations that will use this information. But thinking of ways that the network that's going to be built for the eclipse can be used for something else in the future? Because when was the last time there was one in Rochester? The 20s?
So in Rochester, the last one was 1925, and the next total solar eclipse that's going to hit New York State won't be till 2079.
Yeah. So this
Yeah.
literally is a once in a generation opportunity to kind of bring everyone together. And I am still just in awe of the foresight that RMSC had to know that this was going to be a thing and to take advantage of it. And just impressed with how responsive the community has been to this project. So I guess tell us a little bit more about RMSC in general. You know, the other programs they have, the other space programs they have. I know you have others coming up. I know it's all not just the Eclipse there. I know they have a lot more offerings.
Oh, we are keeping very busy. So we are, fully open. We have the Rochester Museum and Science Center at the main building. We have the RMSC Stressenberg Planetarium, located on our main campus, which I never realized how few planetariums there are out there. I just admittedly here in Rochester was a little bit spoiled with our planetarium, and we have new exhibits going in there, which is tons of fun. And then we have the RMSC Coming Nature Center down in Naples. So if you haven't been, the walk between the pines is just gorgeous and it's a ton of fun to do. Space-wise, whenever Artemis 1 decides to go up, we'll be doing a viewing party on the full planetarium dome. We have a new exhibit opening, and I want to say early November, Wonders of Water. So if you know the RMSC on the first floor, we've had this adventure zone that's been there for 20 years. We gutted it, and we have this gorgeous brand new exhibit coming in, which, as someone who grew up with that, I'm really excited to see the final result.
I love every time I go to RMSC and there's something new on there. That place is fantastic.
We are having fun. We are working on a new JWST planetarium show because those images are coming out left and right.
When was the planetarium refurbished?
In late 2018, early 2019. So we now have a Digistar system that is stunning. We do so many events in there now. It is a total blast.
Yeah, I had the opportunity at the last stakeholder meeting, the presentation, and it was beyond fantastic. It had been admittedly too long since I had last been in a planetarium, and I hadn't been there since it had been redone, and it blew me away. Just the realness of it. It was so spectacular.
And what else we can do in there is, there are no limits anymore. We've done everything from Valentine's Day dinners in there. I was in a meeting earlier to talk about doing concerts in there with custom visualizations. We've done we did Mother's Day brunch. We've done Santa there, a whole shebang. We can do so much on that dome now. I think even previously we've done video games in the dome. We've done movies in there, TV shows, interpretive music. I know in previous years we've done events for the Rochester Fringe Festival. I'm hoping to bring that back next year. So.
No, that's absolutely. It really is a treasure. The RMSC. We are very lucky to have that here. So I guess before we wrap up, tell the people watching where they can follow you, where they can find more stuff on the Eclipse. If there's any videos or links or websites that you want to share, Twitter handles, be sure to get that out to all the folks.
So the main way to keep up with the Rochester Solar Eclipse is ROC Solar Eclipse. You can find that on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can also find the Rochester Museum and Science Center at ROC RMSC. We have some fun things coming up for the overall RMSC. We have our Halloween After Dark coming up on October 21st. But the fun thing that pairs with that on the October 21st and 22nd is we are hosting the American Astronomical Society's Eclipse Workshop weekend. So this is this national group that is completely focused on the eclipse. They started back in maybe around 2014, 2015, getting ready for the 2017 eclipse. took a year break, and then back in 2019 started the group up again, holding these events. And we are their first in-person event since 2019. So we'll be having 200, 250 people in town, all participating in these different sessions and these panels and these breakout groups, all getting ready to, all of us getting our own communities, and Canada, US, and Mexico all ready for the total solar eclipse.
So things are starting to get real.
Yeah, it's there's a countdown on our website, rochestereclipse2024.org, and that countdown is above my head every single day. It's one of those, I got to know the number like almost always off the top of my head, but it's a scary thing figuring that, you know, we're at approximately 578 days. And I remember when that number was 1,500. Yeah. Or when we did a 1,000-day video.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do the day after?
The day after the eclipse? Sleep. I think I could probably sleep for a week afterwards. Realistically, there'll be a lot of after tasks to do and a lot of wrap up. But
people always think that these events end. It's just kind of like, no, there's a whole lot, and so it's exciting to have the Eclipse folks coming to Rochester in October. I know that had been something that was coming up for a while, so it's exciting that that workshop is getting here. So that's absolutely fantastic. Any final thoughts that you want to share with the folks before we wrap up?
No. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell random strangers, just be ready for that April 8th, 2024 total solar eclipse. It's going to be a once in a lifetime, and once in multiple lifetimes, depending on where you are, experience that you will not want to miss.
It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Thank you for all the work you've been doing on it for the past couple of years, and will continue doing for the next couple of years. Thank you for taking the time to join us tonight and share all this fantastic information with us. And we look forward to keep in touch with you in the future.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Have a great night.
Thanks.